Want to bet? Bet on what?
I'll take that bet right on.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 10 of Wanna Bet. I'm your host, Mathias, and today my goal is to make you a more educated sports bettor for college football week 5. Week 5 already being here, it seems like we wait for the football season so long, and it just drags and drags and drags, and then it gets here, and then boom, you're already nearing the halfway point of the season. So the non-conference games are for the most part behind us. We're starting to get in some meaty matchups. I don't have a great feel for the full card this weekend, just being fully transparent. This is my least amount of bets for a college football Saturday I have in so far. Keep in mind that once you start to play the top tier competition, you almost want to let that ruminate a little bit to kind of see really who these teams are, unless you feel very strongly one way or the other. So each one of these games I had a strong feel for as far as my play, but then I also tried to find some math and some plays to make that reasoning, more adequate as far as laying a bet with it. I also put all these in Monday morning, which would have been the 23rd. Some of these lines are gone or have either gone up or gone down. So a few of them out of my favor, a few of them I feel like I've gotten the best numbers, so I like those plays. If you are new to this show and your only goal is to hop on here and then hear what the full card is, plug those plays in and tail us or fade us, we're going to do that here to start the show real quick. Just a little housekeeping here. We are currently sitting at 29-18 against the spread for the college football season. We did have a loser last week. We went 4-8. We had a live bet that ended up cashing, so we went 5-8 total for college football. Not a great weekend. We lost money, but we knew that was coming. You can't always be in the green. I know these people that charge tens of thousands of dollars for their courses and their picks will tell you otherwise, but the truth is you are just going to have some weeks like this. We did go positive for the NFL. Our video for the NFL will come out either Thursday or Friday, depending on when I get that wrapped up. And that is my strong suit. College football is not my strong suit. So these games and these teams are just so much in college football. I almost need to start really honing in on a conference or something like that because there's so many matchups. Like it takes me so long to go through all these. But I feel good about our system. I feel good about where we're at. So here's what we do. We're going to go through. I'm going to rifle off these picks. We got 1, 2, 3. So we only got a couple picks on the card. More will be added before, maybe even before Friday, before Saturday. So like and comment, subscribe down below, and be sure to follow along with us on Twitter or Juice Reel. That way you can stay up to date with all of our plays. So I'm going to rifle through our plays, and then I'm going to go back. If you want to turn the video off and piss off and do whatever you want, that's fine. Here are our plays for college football week number 5. We got Michigan laying 9.5 versus Minnesota. Ole Miss laying 17.5 versus Kentucky. Oklahoma State getting 6.5 versus Kansas State. University of Louisiana Lafayette getting 3 points versus Wake Forest. Alabama getting 2.5 versus Georgia. LSU versus South Alabama, we have over 65.5. Arizona getting 12.5 versus Utah. That's all we got so far. So I know it's not the most exciting card in the world. A lot of great matchups. There's just not a lot of games I felt confident playing a card or putting a ticket in on. So those are our plays for this week. Now we're just going to go back through, hit on a few key points as to why we took those wagers. We'll wrap up and send you guys on the rest of your day. So Michigan laying 9.5 versus Minnesota. This game, the winner keeps the coveted Little Brown Jug trophy. Ever heard of it? So I think teams are going to be pretty juiced up to take that trophy on the bus home with them if Minnesota were to win. Michigan played really well versus USC last weekend. It looked like they were going to run away with the game at one point. USC was live. Money line was like plus 520. They did come back. Maybe a little bit of questionable decisions as far as officiating goes late, some missed calls, but doesn't matter. Michigan got the win. It goes on paper that way. They don't ask how, they ask how many. So Michigan got a really big upset there. Ann Arbor was rocking. The big house is always a good place to watch college football. Minnesota's only averaging 14 points a game. Michigan's allowing 20.8 points per game. That's with USC and with Texas on their schedule so far. Minnesota's competition has not been fantastic. They did lose to Iowa in their first Big Ten matchup. Minnesota's quarterback is FCS transfer Max Brosmer. He's got 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. The little bit of, I guess, tape that I watched on him, the kid seems to get in sync well, but he has not played a very high level of competition. He does have that little bit of a deer in the headlights look when he gets in trouble. All 3 of those interceptions were horrible that I watched. Minnesota is 3-6 against the spread versus conference opponents when they're a dog since 2022. So the team doesn't really get up to the competition when they're playing them. I'm going to lay the points with Michigan. I just like the defense. I like the home team there. 9.5, you're off a 10, so not a very scary number. Over-under currently is 35.5 if you want the over, 36.5 if you like the under. I got to think with a game, Michigan being a 9.5 point favorite, I got to think the over would be the play if you wanted to put something on this one. You know, that you're asking for Michigan to score 4 touchdowns, and this game should go over, but haven't had a wager in on that yet, but I would lean towards the over. Ole Miss versus Kentucky. Ole Miss laying 17.5. Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss head coach, is just on an absolute tear. They have not played anyone yet. So, you really need to put an asterisk so far. They're having 60 points per game and only allowing 5.3 points per game, which is just an insane statistic. He wants Jackson Dart to win the Heisman. He wants to go to the college football playoff and win the championship and then go and make $1 billion taking over the Florida Gators program. This is a total resume builder, but the Ole Miss players are fully invested in this guy. Kentucky's coming off that really bad loss to Georgia. I'm not exactly sure why their head coach, I don't know his name, but the Kentucky's head coach could have beat Georgia, probably the biggest win in program history. And they just said, give him the ball back. So that was a real head scratcher. I think in a game like this, you look at who's got the better quarterback, who has the better head coach. Ole Miss checks both those boxes by a very wide margin. Ole Miss is 4-0 against the spread. There's a betting trend on this one. Favorites of 10 to 20 points when they average 7.25 yards per play in the past 2 games are 47-19 against the spread since 1992. Massive percentage of wins against the spread for that. Ole Miss fits that play perfectly. Their efficiency per play is absolutely insane. So I'm going to keep riding with Ole Miss until proven otherwise. So I'm laying the 17.5. Over-under sitting at 52.5, or there's a 53 out there if you want to bet the under. Since I'm laying the points, I'm not touching over-under on this one. If you wanted to make a play, I think you could lay the over because, like I said, Lane Kiffin's going to put his foot on the gas, and they are not going to stop. Oklahoma State getting 6.5 versus K-State. I bet Oklahoma State last week they were getting 2.5 points, and then all of a sudden it flip-flopped, and then they were laying 2.5 against Utah. Cam Rising, I think it was Thursday night, it's kind of seemed like he wasn't going to play. So he dressed, and he went through pregame warmups, and then he did not play. It didn't matter. Utah's defense completely dominated Oklahoma State. Every aspect of the game, their offense couldn't get going, and then Utah put some points on the board and really never looked back. K-State, very similar. Well, not similar at all, actually. K-State outplayed BYU. When you look at that final box score, their yardage, their efficiency was all better than BYU, but a few turnovers cost them the game. So you look at those two losses, and I just, I like Mike Gundy coming off of a loss like that. He, as an underdog in his career with Oklahoma State, is 19-11 straight up. I could not find the against the spread total for that, so got to be higher than 19-11. Both these teams' strengths are their defense. Each team's giving up about 20 points per game to their opponent. So a defensive matchup, a conference game, 2 teams coming off a loss. Man, I expect a tight one. I would have loved to have gotten the 7. The 6.5 is gone. I just checked before I posted this video. So like I said, I've made all these bets on Monday morning. 6.5 points I loved. I was going to wait for 7. Then I figured, maybe not. And it's gotten bet down. So I'm taking the points to Oklahoma State because of the defensive battle. Over under set to 55.5. I'd lean towards the under. If what I expect to happen happens, I don't think this one goes, over that total. Up next, a matchup that everyone's going to have their eyes on: Louisiana Lafayette getting 3 points versus Wake Forest. The Ragin' Cajuns come into this one with a pretty solid defense. They are allowing only 268 yards of offense per game. They're 2-1 straight up. Their only loss was to Tulane, and Tulane's a really good football team this year. They lost 41-33, so they didn't get blown out by any stretch of the imagination. They kept up with them. Wake Forest, on the other hand, has allowed at least 31 points a game and 473 yards of offense per game. So road underdogs with at least 250 yards passing versus a defense allowing at least 275 yards passing have a record of 34-9 against the spread since 1992. So the Ragin' Cajuns like throwing the ball. They're averaging over 250 yards a game in the air. Wake Forest couldn't, they can't stop anything through the air. So I think you just go team's strength, team's weakness, and you take advantage of it. So Louisiana Lafayette getting 3 points versus Wake Forest, I think that's a great play. Over under 60.5. I have no play on this one. If I were to bet it, it'd be towards the under because I think the Ragin' Cajuns defense could shut down Wake Forest. Biggest matchup of the weekend: number 4 Alabama hosting number 2 Georgia. Alabama getting 2.5 points. Kellen DeBoer's biggest game of his SEC coaching career so far. So he did very, very well with Washington last year, took him to the national championship, and then transferred. I mean, who wouldn't want to go and be the head coach of Alabama? Georgia, that game against Kentucky, I don't want to dive too much into previous games, but how in the world, Georgia wants to control the ball. They want to have time of possession, run, and then they want to take the opportunity of getting their run game established and then air it out downfield. They couldn't get that going against Kentucky. I just kind of expect both teams to be up for this one. And when you have two very, very strong teams, the home dog usually is gonna play very well. So Alabama getting 2.5 points versus anybody. They have not. Okay, so I heard this. I don't know what year it's been since, but this is the first time Alabama has been a home dog since I think it was like 2007. I mean, it's an insane number. So I think Alabama's going to be up to this one. DeBoer is going to, they have had a little bit of a cupcake walk thus far. So I think this one's been circled big time. I think they'll be ready for Georgia. You're getting 2.5 points. I'm not sure if that's still around when you guys are watching this video, but I'm taking the 2 points. Over-under is set to 48.5. I like the under as well, based on both these teams wanting to just control the line of scrimmage, run the ball. I just think at quarterback too, Jalen Milroe has had a really quiet, Heisman type season. His mobility is going to be great, so I like Georgia getting the points. LSU versus South Alabama, over 65.5. Not going to talk about this one. This is dog shit versus dog shit as far as defenses go. The only way this game goes under is if LSU holds South Alabama to 10 points or less. That's the only way in my imagination this one isn't just a complete firework fest left and right. I could see LSU scoring 70 points and then South Alabama scoring 40. I mean, 65.5, I'm taking the over on it. Chip Kelly should not be the leader of that program. Very frustrating to watch that team thus far, so I am not going to bet any spreads for LSU until there's major changes within that program. But the over-under on this one, I think 65.5. I think we're going to get there. Last game on the card, Arizona getting 12.5 versus Utah. Seems kind of dumb considering I talked Utah up previously from that Oklahoma State game. But I just think that 12.5 points is a lot. This is a conference matchup. Utah coming off a win. I think Cam Rising, I'm assuming, is going to be back in. So, with the injury he had, I'd assume they start the game running the ball a lot. Utah is top 5 time of possession team in the entire NCAA. So they want to bleed the clock, run, convert third down, and just keep that clock going and just do not let their opponent get going. Arizona has been pretty decent so far. They're coming off a bye week, and their last loss was against K-State, and they got absolutely curb stomped. I really, really like betting teams coming off a bad loss and then a bye week. And then when you're, a dog on a conference game, getting 12.5 points, I think Arizona is going to be ready for this one. A few trends going in Arizona's benefit. In the first half of the season, Arizona, since the start of 2023, are 8-1 against the spread as a dog with an average line of 2.9 points. So that goes in our favor tremendously. Another stat, Arizona is 8-0 against the spread on games played on turf since the start of the 2023 campaign. So a lot of good things going in Arizona's direction here. I like getting that many points versus, as a conference dog. Over under set to 47.5. That's a low point total, especially considering the gap is 12.5 points. I'm not playing this one. If you do not want to take the points or lay it with Utah, I think 47.5. I think you could bet that. I think you could bet that over, but no play for me. So that's all we have for college football week 5, guys. Be sure to comment down below and let us know if you've been tailing, if you've been having some success. We're going to have a very big NFL card. We're fully ready for that one. Our player props have been absolutely on fire, so we are diving into player props and investing a lot of time into that. So I am going to keep an eye on some things. I'm thinking about Washington versus Rutgers still. I think I like Washington getting the points. I know they're traveling, across the entire country to go to northern New York where the Rutgers play, but a few other games I'm looking at, just watching the line, seeing if it gets to a number that makes sense for us. So I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much for your time, and most importantly, good luck with your bets this weekend.